Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you can see this. I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes to get started. And if you should happen to see some of my studio here, excuse the total chaos. We are starting to put up new walls, and I'm trying to pack up and move stuff out of the way. It's a mess, but hopefully by next Tuesday it will all be done. New design wall, new walls, um, a little more fun place to work. So what I want to show you guys today is how to deconstruct your sweatshirt so that you can get started. Before we do that, I want to share with you a few things. I got the one I was working on the other day. I got it quilted and sewn together, and the lining is in it. How awesome is that lining? I'm rounding my collar here. So this is all stitched together. I need to put cuffs on the ends of my sleeves, but it's real close to being totally done. So, and I love it. I wanted to share with you a few other jackets that I have done. This was done on a sweatshirt, and it's just all done on my grid, the 2-inch grid. I did a little embellishing, some beads on the front, just solid grid, all reds with a little black and white check. Perfect for this weekend for the races. Big race fans. This one is interesting, but I don't remember the blocks I used on the back, so can't really tell you there. This is a short little jacket. I had a little golf panel, and I used bow tie blocks, my little 4-inch, I think they're 4-inch bow tie blocks all around, gathered up the waist, and then grid for the sleeves, and a deep collar. I wore this to the AT&T tournament one year. This is another one done on grids on a sweatshirt. Very simple to do. We'll bypass that one and that one. Another grid one in blues. What's the lining on this one? Ooh, pretty. And these are, I ended up making reversible. This is my little cowboy grid jacket. Cute lining. And I did a yoke on this one with a pipe edging. And that's that one. It's kind of heavy. This is the same one as the golf one, but real fancy. Velvet collar with the gold lame piping. But again, the bow tie blocks. This side over here is well embellished, as are the sleeves, all grid. And the back is just bow tie blocks, like that. Little decorative stuff on it, and then elastic in the waist. I was a little bit thinner when I made that one. And this one, I actually got this one on this morning. Whoops. And it was spiderweb blocks. And I just dropped this one. This is one I'm currently working on. It's on a commercial pattern. And what I do when I work with a commercial pattern is I cut the pieces out in muslin, and then these blocks are included in the jacket package. It is on the website. You get a set of these, and then you get all the blocks on the one I made on Saturday or Tuesday, getting my days mixed up. This one, you get the Ohio Star, you get 2 Ohio Star blocks, you get the full thing of grid, you get 5 sections of the migrating geese, you get 2 of the Lemoyne Star, you get, I think it's 6 of the log cabin blocks. What else is in here? Oh, you get a couple of the braid borders. You get the spiked border I put on the bottom. And you get a couple sets of hexies. And I think that's it. I know there's a lot. There's more than what you need to make one jacket. And it's $21.95 for the whole thing. There's cutting instructions for all the blocks. There's going to be a little bit of there is a little bit of instructions on, not so much on making the blocks. There's pictures of where to set your first piece. If you've done any of our foundations, it's very straightforward how to do this, how to make the blocks. And then there are some instructions on doing a sweatshirt, and some instructions on using a commercial pattern, like I have done with this one. This is just the back so far. So, and before I do that, I was going to show you a couple other things. I think I told you on Tuesday I had a bunch of crazy quilt blocks made from a sort of a modern Asian, it's kind of got an Asian theme to it. So I pulled those blocks out. I have 9 of them made. I've got 3 more to make. It's one package of crazy patch blocks. You get 6 of the number 1 block and 6 of the number 2 block. These are the 2 different blocks. This one starts with, what do you call it, a 5-sided block. This one starts with a square. They both have 17 pieces. This is number 1. This is number 2. So the package, you get 12 blocks, and then keep all your scraps. If you make this, if you want to make a package of 12, with a few scraps placed here and there as fillers, you can do a whole jacket. So that's kind of fun. And then I was looking around thinking, oh, I got to come up with some other ideas. And I found somewhere along the line, I got this line of fabric, cowboy stuff. They're small panels, so they'd work great on a jacket. And I happen to have the boot fabric, the bandana fabric, and 2, I don't think you can see it here in the sunlight. It looks like tooled leather, so it would be perfect. And then I have a mini charm pack, which is perfect for the grid. So that's what I'm going to be doing with that. And as I get it done, I will be sharing it with you. It's not going to be a project I'm going to do start to finish. What I want to show you how to do now is how to deconstruct your sweatshirt to get started for covering it. And remember, you want to start with a size or 2 larger than what you normally wear. And remember, it is going to shrink. You probably want to pre-shrink it before you start doing this. Um, make Allow for shrinkage after you've pre-shrunk it, because you're going to cut it apart and then you're going to sew it back up. So that's going to take some of the size away from it. So you want to allow for that. So I am using, this is an extra large. It will finish out for about a large. It depends on how big a seams you take. So keep that in mind also. So what you want to do, I have turned this one inside out. I've got the wrong side facing up. And you've got to do a little bit of measuring. You want to find the center. So this is a raglan sleeve sweatshirt. So we're going to measure right at the armpit. And this one measures, let me get that down there. This one measures from here to here, comes out at 23 inches. So half of that would be 11 and a half. So I'm going to find 11 and a half here in the middle, and I'm going to make a mark. And I got to find one that will work. My heat erase ones won't work. So there's 11 and a half. And then I'm going to go up higher, and I'm going to measure between the two seams, find the center between the two seams. Doesn't really matter where on here. Whoops, go the right way. I've got it at 7, so 3.5 is the middle. And then down at the bottom, it's a little trickier to measure the bottom because you got your ribbing on and you don't want to cut the ribbing off yet. But it should be the same as at the armpit. When you stretch it out, it should be the same. And you don't have to go all the way down. I keep moving it from the wrong side. This is 22.25. So we're going to go 11 and 1/8. Let me see. 22.25, 11 and 1/8. Okay, now I'm going to run a line down, connecting those. You want to make sure you've got it folded in half perfectly straight down the sides. We're going to go with those first two measurements because that's pretty much on the fold. Oh, yeah. Whoops. So then I'm just going to do a mark down here. And then you want to take interfacing, about a 5-inch wide piece of interfacing, fusible interfacing. I made this one, and I know it doesn't match, but you're not going to see it, so it really doesn't matter. And you're just you can fold this backwards in half, kind of where find where the middle is, and fold it over. And then you want to press it. So it'll stay in place. And then we're going to flip our sweatshirt right side out. Should be an easier way to do this. there's my front. Match my two seams. Match my two seams here. And lay it with the front side facing up. I will iron that interfacing in. Okay, and then we want to measure it again on the front side, on the outside. And what I like to do is I put a horizontal mark. I want that nice and flat. I put a horizontal mark from armpit to armpit where the seams are there. And I'm going to see if my chalk will work on this one. Blue chalk in here. It's not really going to show, so I'll use my water-soluble one. I do a horizontal line, and while I'm at it, we're going to mark the center, and I'm going to mark the center up here. And then I'm going to draw a line all the way down. I see you always want to make sure that you've got everything nice and flat. Okay. And that interfacing should be attached. Mine's kind of sticky, the fusible is, so I'm going to leave it. Actually, I'm going to take it, I'm going to do it right, take it to the ironing board and press it. I want it to support the edge. You don't want your sweatshirt to stretch. And you always, if you've made garments before, you know that you always like to have the front of your jacket or the front of your shirt or whatever. You want to have interfacing in there to give it just a little more body to hold its shape. And that's what we're doing here, besides keeping it from stretching. Okay, I think it's stuck enough. We can come back over. And we're gonna just take our good fabric scissors and we're gonna cut through the ribbing and everything. And the reason I put this horizontal line is so we can always make sure that we have it matched. And right through the neck ribbing. Okay, then the next thing I like to do to keep it from stretching is, there's my interfacing, nice. To keep it from stretching, we're going to run a line of stay stitching. You can see where the ribbing is stitched on here. We're going to run it right next to that line of stitching all the way around. And then we're going to do the same thing around the bottom. Before we remove the ribbing, we're going to run a line of stay stitching. So only problem working with the t-shirt or sweatshirts is the knit wants to stretch, but it makes a nice thickness for a quilted jacket. You don't have to add any more batting or anything to it. I'm going to try this with my I'm not going to be doing a kit right now. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead, to tell you the truth. I certainly don't have fabrics in stock right now that I would think would be good. And before we go any further, we want to cut our, let me grab my scissors. We want to cut our the tag off. Trying this with my walking foot today. I hadn't tried it. I got it a few weeks ago and I hadn't used it. It worked great when I was sewing the seams of the jacket together. I'm running my stitching right either on or next to the stitching that's already there. And there's a couple of ways you can do these. When I cover, when I use the crazy patch blocks, I'm just going to sew them together to make it like a piece of fabric. And then kind of use the flat sweatshirt as my guide. You know, so I might only need, obviously at the bottom of the cuffs, you probably only need 1 block wide, and then build it so that you don't have a lot of waste. Anyway, and I do not cut my ribbing off my neckline till I absolutely have to. Just kind of want to keep it together, keep its shape. Okay, now we're going to do around the bottom. Right above the stitching that's on the sweatshirt. I'm going to see if I can make this there. And then I am going to add a little bit of length to this jacket. I like to add any 5-6 inches usually. And before you go any further, after you do this and you cut your ribbing off, you can slip the sweatshirt on and get an idea of how much you want to add to it. Not pulling this as I go, because I don't want it to get too stretched out. I've thought about doing this and saving the ribbing and sewing it back on to make it like a bomber jacket. I'll have to give that a try on one of these. And I think after we do the modern sampler, I might throw in a day or so of showing how I use the commercial pattern to basically do the same thing. And then with the commercial jackets, if you want it heavier, obviously you're going to make it an extra size bigger to make up for the bulk of a batting or whatever, lightweight batting inside. Or I don't use any batting in some of those lighter weight ones I showed you. Okay, so now I am going to go back over to the cutting board. And I'm going to cut this ribbing off. Actually, before we cut we'll cut the ribbing off first. Get a better. So my stay stitching, I want to cut it below my line of stitching, which is why I use one that's a little bit, just a little bit different color, so I can tell my stitching from their stitching. And there's a little rib there that you don't really want to have that. Don't want that ridge when you do your jacket. And if right now, if part of it, if you've stitched close, like I have in some of these places, if it's still on there when your jacket's done, you're going to trim it anyway, so you'll get that little bit of trim or bulk off of there. And then after you've done this too, it's good if you try it on to get a good measurement of your sleeves. Because when you don't have the ribbing to hold it right at your cuff, you may want to add or you may want to take off. In my case, I'm short, my arms are short. I usually have to cut a couple inches off. And I don't like my cuffs right all the way down to my hands. My sewing machine is a Baby Lock Jazz 2, and it is the mechanical. The Jazz 2 is the mechanical version. If you watch my daughter-in-law on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, she sews on, it's the exact same machine except it is computerized. I got this one to do, it has a nice big throat, and I was doing a lot of art quilts. And I had a FOF that I just loved, and I burned up. I did so much about what do you call it, thread painting, that I burned up two motherboards. So I wanted something mechanical that would not require so much, wouldn't be so hard on it. Okay, so now once I have the ribbing off, I want to lay this out flat again. Pull this down, get the back flat. close this up. And your side seam, there is no side seam on the sweatshirt. So we want to line this back up, lay it flat. And get your two front pieces to come together here where I did that line. Get your bottoms to match. Get it all laid out here. Okay, and then we're going to find that armpit, and we're going to, we want this flat. Okay, so there's your two side seams over here, just like this, because you want them to be equal. And they've got to come up right where at the base of the armpit. So I just lay it out like this. Everything's nice and flat. Your horizontal line matches. I'm just going to cut right up. Before you do this, if you want to measure your sleeve length, put the jacket on, measure where it comes for your sleeves, and measure how much you want to add for the length, if you want to add anything at all. Then lay it out like this, nice and flat, and I'm just going to cut along that fold line. Right up to the base of the armpit. And I'm going to do the same thing while I've got this nice and flat. Going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to turn it, make it a little bit. Something they teach you in school. Always cut where it's a convenient angle. Right to the armpit. And then there is a seam in your arms, so you can cut right along that seam line. And I cut on one side of the seam. One side has the seam allowance. We'll go back and cut that later. It's real easy to cut right. Just put the edge of your scissors right along that seam line. Getting it ready is probably the most tedious part. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. There we go. Yay! Now, when you open this all up, you have a flat garment. It will lay out flat. Have to cut the cuffs off. And it will lay out nice and flat. So then, if you wanted to just cover it with a solid piece of fabric, you could do that. And that's why, like I say, when I make the, when I sew all those, I'll lay them out here for you as a matter of fact. When I sew all the crazy patch blocks together, it'll end up being just like one big piece of fabric. Sort of shaped like this. Okay, take that cuff off. But you can see then, my big cutting table here is not big enough to lay it all out. But there's the back. We'll just push that on. And then you can see that if I didn't have so much stuff up here, it'll just lay out flat. And then your front comes like this. Your front will lay out flat like this. So you have one big piece of fabric, or the base to your sweatshirt, just like that. And like I say, I leave my collar ribbing on until I am ready to sew fabric up around the neckline. It is stay stitched, but I still like to leave it on. I don't want my neckline to get stretched out. And I will cut the cuff off of the other side. And then I think I'm going to do this one. Oh, I got to show you how to do the extra length. I think I'll get my little iron so we can do it over here. See, there's just this little piece of ribbing. You just want to get just past that. Okay. So then that lays out like that. So I have my one-piece garment, the whole thing here, all laid out, and it will lay out flat. I just don't have the room here. Now I want to add some length to this. So what I'm going to do is take my batting, this batting is, I think this is, I just bought this, should have got white. Anyway, it's about the same thickness as the fleece of the sweatshirt. You can lay them there, and you can't, if you don't look and you have the edges together, you can't tell the difference. There's no difference. I want to cut just a strip off. That is 6 inches. I'm going to add about 6 inches. And I usually recommend adding a little extra. I think I end up netting, like trimming off enough along the bottom that it ends up being only about a 5-inch add. So, and remember, if it's going to go down over your hips, we're going to have to do a little shaping on it. So I'm kind of right at the point where I don't need to add, we're not going to get into the heavy garment making here. This is my 6-inch ruler. So I'm just going to cut a strip. See, what do they say? Always cut where it's convenient. Close. Okay. Just throw this aside. This room is such a mess. Oh my gosh. Can't hardly stand it. Open this up. We're going to add length to both fronts. Like this. And I am going to allow for a little, just a little flare at the bottom. And this is my inner facing that I made out of a lot of double-sided steam-a-seam. What do you call it? Okay, and I want the front to be straight. Just kind of, nothing's super, super, super exact yet. And then I'm going to cut one just like this, a mirror image for the other side. So I don't have too much on one side and not enough on the other. And I hate working with this great big huge ruler. And then this is the side I made I made it a little wider, about 1 inch wider, so I can allow for a little flare out at the sides. So here's one side, and here's the other side. And I'm going to match it at the center. And I'm going to adhere it with this interfacing is fusible interfacing. So I'll fuse it like that, and then I'll come back with this. Now you can just, if you don't want to use interfacing, you can just zigzag these edges together. Guess I should make that straight. But I find when I zigzag, sometimes I stretch it no matter how hard I try not to. So the interfacing works much better. Let me cut the interfacing like that. I'm going to take it over to the ironing mat and do that. We'll take the other piece so we can do it all over here. And then I think on this one, I'm going to make it the Western one and use some of those little panels and make some blocks. This is my center. I've got it marked here that this is the center well, and it's got the interfacing there, so you know that. And then we're just going to turn my iron back on. We're going to just steam press this together. Yeah, this is the right side. So my interfacing is on the inside. Not that it would matter because I'm going to be covering the whole jacket. Press that. Want those edges flush so you don't get a ridge. Okay, and then I will, but I'm gonna trim this from this corner down to that corner out there, so it'll have just a slight flare, very, very slight flare. So there's our interfacing fused on the inside. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other front. And then I think we're ready to, oh, we got to add the back, length to the back. And then we'll be ready to start figuring out how we're going to decorate it. Or how we're going to make it, what blocks. And then this one, and I want it to have the extra length at the side. I can tell this is my center because my interfacing's there. Match those edges. I think I grabbed the wrong one, but that's okay. We can match it up. Make sure it's adhered to that interfacing. Okay. So I'm going to take the other front piece and match it at the neck and bring them down, and that's why I have that horizontal, this line here. Make sure that they meet, just like that. Make sure our lengths here they're exactly the same length. Whoops. And then we'll flare out the sides. And then we're going to do the same thing on the back. We're going to add our length to the back. And I'm not going to bore you with all that, but we will. Let's get now, if I was going to do the my brain, if I was going to do the crazy patch one, what I'd start doing is I would start sewing them together. And if you bought the jacket package of blocks, let me cut this all off. You could just start making blocks in the fabrics you want to use on your jacket. That's the outside. Okay. So I'm just showing you with these blocks, but you can do whatever you want with whatever blocks you choose to do. And the package has a real wide variety. So lay this out flat. I would start sewing this together, these blocks together, not to the sweatshirt, but it's not going to take, it's going to take like say 2 wide there and a little bit more. And this is where if you're a larger sweatshirt, you can either like cut the third block in half and sew it here to have enough width, or you can fill in with, I have a lot of these fabrics, you can just fill in. You could do a piece between the blocks. And I'm not going to set the blocks even like that. I'm going to offset them. So I probably will fill in with just a strip of fabric across the bottom. I just don't want too many seams matchy kind of thing. So I want to offset them. They'll be a straight line when I sew them because I will probably over here, we'll just say we'd have these two sewn together like that. And then I'd put another block up here like that. I have almost have enough to come up to the neckline. I'd do a little filler in there. I hope you see where I'm going with this. You could do another piece right here instead of a filler there. You could do just another piece here. And you could just do your blocks out like this. Like I say, I don't like to have them, all my seams come together in one place. So this is, see, this is one seam line here. Here's a, you know, on the seams. So then I would maybe put it like this. And then if you did a partial block on one side, do a part, use the rest of it over here. Probably go like this. But you just sew them together and use filler or more block. I have more blocks to make, so I will have enough to pretty much cover this. So I have to use very little filler. But then this is one of those, the crazy patch. If you have an embroidery machine, you can do some embroidery, some lace work, or you can, all kinds of things you could do if you wanted to embellish it up. I don't usually embellish the backs. I will with stitching, but not with buttons and beads, things that might poke you if you sit in a chair and lean back or whatever. Don't want it to be uncomfortable, but leave the embellishment for the sleeves and the fronts. But now what I'm going to do, this one, I want to do the Western kind of thing. So we're just gonna, I'll add the bottom, the length on the bottom, and then I'm gonna take these panels, and I'm not sure which ones yet I'm gonna use or where. I usually start with the back and build off of that. And I'm thinking this one will go across most of the back. This one here. I'm just gonna cut it out, and we're gonna start playing. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna build your own fabric from all these blocks. And it can be very asymmetrical. It could be very, patterned. So this is what you would call the yoke of the jacket. I might want it down a little bit lower and do a pieced yoke. Or use part of the grid. It's the blocks end up being, the squares end up being finished at 2 inches, and I think the block is 12 by 18, and then you can cut it. I cut it in quarters for the back of the jacket I did the other day. But that's what you're going to do, is you're just going to use your blocks and your filler fabrics, and if you're using panels, what you're going to do is you're going to make a piece of fabric that is going to cover your entire sweatshirt. I generally do my back. I will draw a line from armpit to armpit, front to back on both sides, and across the back to kind of give myself to know that area above that line to the neckline would be your yoke area. Um, and then just kind of lay stuff out, make blocks where you think they might go, lay them out. If you have to use filler fabric to make them come together, I will usually cover the entire back up to just above the yoke line at the armpit. And I'll do the same with the fronts, do the same with the sleeves. And then the filler, you're going to have, excuse me, lay that out on your sweatshirt. And then either your bottom part, if it only comes up to the armpit, you can sew that on right sides together, open it up down to the bottom, and do that on your sides, or you can do that with your sleeves. In the case of this one that I just did the other day, because I wanted my bottom to match all the way around at the same height, I put this on the bottom first. I did this, and then and I added this 1-inch piece of trim or whatever fabric. I made my grid. This was a grid, and I cut it twice diagonally to piece around my star. And I ended up sewing all of that together up to this purple piece. And then I made the yoke piece, and it went around to the front. Before I sewed that down, I made my front piece. I did my spiky border. Yes, the jacket packages are available. They're on the website. And it's just called Jacket Block Package. So I did my spiked border around the bottom and did the same 1-inch line so that when I put it together, the bottom and this 1-inch line would be continuous around. I did my braid border. I did the strips on both sides, and then I call this filler. This is my background fabric, and I filled it in. It was bigger than the jacket, and it came somewhere in the armpit into here. I cut it, basted it on there, and then I made the yoke part, and the yoke on this side comes down much further. But I made this whole yoke part that goes across the back and over the shoulders. That's all one piece. If you can see that, it's all one piece. I sewed it right sides together here, flipped it forward, because I knew that one side was going to come down a lot lower than the other. I sewed this purple strip on to the yoke part on both sides. I flipped it over the shoulders. I had my 2 front pieces already on because, remember, I wanted the bottoms to match, so they needed to be set in place before I added the yoke. What I did was I sewed it on the back side because it's straight across on the yoke is added in a straight line here. So I stitched it here, right sides together, flipped it over. And then where I wanted it to end on the front, I had the purple strip sewn onto the yoke part. I turned the edge under and I just top stitched it. And that's exactly what I did on this side, is I found where I wanted it to go and how far down I wanted it to go, and turned the edge under and top stitched it because it doesn't match with anything on the opposite side, so it's perfect. Then I had raw edges here that went slightly down the sleeve. They went beyond the curve of the armpit. And then I made my sleeve piece. I made my migrating geese. I did the 2 strips on either side, then 2 more strips, and then filler around to the edges on both sides. Then I added this turquoise piece, sewed it on to the sleeve part, so I had that cover, and then I pinned it at the bottom where I wanted it to be, and they're both identical, so I pinned them both so that both sleeves are identical. And then I laid the piece out, pinned it all around, made sure it was nice and flat on the sweatshirt. I folded this blue under and pressed it to give me a seam line. Then I laid the sleeve up on top with the right sides together, stitched along this line here, folded it down, and it was in place. So you're just making hunks of fabric, putting them where you want. And if there's no way to sew right sides together and flip it open, do a piece of trim or something, turn it under, top stitch it, because you're going to end up doing a lot of stitching anyway. You're pretty much going to want to quilt it. I did not do a lot of quilting on it because I don't want it to be too stiff. So I just did, well, you can see, and I used a variegated thread on this one. I just stitched here. Did feathers down the front on the, did a lot of straight line, and then the rest was just meandering to fill. Didn't do much quilting on the log cabins because there's already a lot of seams there. You don't want to make it too stiff. And I did in the ditch on the star, on the trim, and then I just did a teardrop. I do have an idea for a little bit of embellishment on this one. And I did in the ditch on the spiked border. You see, I don't know if you can see the stitching, but that was it, and it went pretty fast. And then you add your lining. After you get the whole sweatshirt covered, you're going to lay it out like this, flat. The whole thing is done. And then you lay it on the wrong side of your lining. You lay your lining out and pin your sweatshirt to your lining, making sure you don't have any puckers or pleats or anything in it, and keeping both of them nice and flat, and pin. I pin a lot. I pin down the shoulder point all the way down on the sleeves and pinned all the edges nice, nice and flat. And then I did do a basting stitch all the way around. It's one continuous from the neckline all the way down around the back, around both sleeves, and back up to the collar line to make sure I've got it all in place, flat. And then the only thing you have to do is you're going to flip the front side to the back, and you have 2 seams to sew from the cuffs up through the armpit. And of course you want to match everything. Match where your seams are, match all the way down the side, and you're going to just do one continuous line of stitching, clip at your armpits so it will lay flat. It won't bulk up there, and it will let all this lay flat, and your lining's in. My serger is not working right now, so before I sewed it all together, I would serge the edges and have it, with the cutter, so that you get a really nice edge. So it's a pretty well finished look on the inside. It won't be reversible, but you'd have a nice finished edge. Mine, because my serger is broken, my 2 seams, I pressed them open. And I told you I took a deep seam on this one, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to make a piece of bias from my, I don't know if I have to do bias. I don't think so, because I want that. It's such a busy pattern. I am just going to hand stitch a covering over the seam from the lining fabric. So, but otherwise I would have, if my serger was working, I would have serged it so you just had a very short seam and it would be finished. But we'll get there. And then I'm going to just bind it, make a bias binding, and it's one continuous piece all the way around. And I am adding a little fold-up cuff to the sleeves. So hopefully by Tuesday I can show you finished product. So that's pretty much the process for doing this. I hesitate to make something that you guys can't use, because I don't have enough of this Western fabric. I have enough of the rest, but not the panels to make those. But, and I'll show you on this one, on the commercial pattern. This is the top to a very loose-fitting jacket. It has a seam here and a flared little skirt part to it. But, oh, I guess sunlight you can see. These are on my foundation. And I just made these. They're done in strips, and these are included in the block package. I think this would make a beautiful back to a sweatshirt jacket because it's got the it's very slimming because of the angle. And anyway, these are done on the foundations. So there's 6 strips. Sew them together, and then I did my edging, this outer piece. These, I wanted to leave the top plain because there's darts, so I didn't want them to be distorted, a pieced block being distorted. So anyway, that's another, this would work on a sweatshirt. Do this piece and put in some stripes to fill out to the side edges, or one solid piece out to your side edges. There's just a lot of options. That were sold out. It should allow us to sell them even if they're sold out. I'll go in and make sure that it is available, because it's just block packages. We never sell out of block packages, because if we do sell all we have in stock, we just make more. And we do that in-house. So I will make sure that it's set so that it will allow you to buy them. Anyway, that's everything that's in. I think this is all the blocks. And like I say, there's plenty of all of them. There's only one set of these, but I put in extra log cabins, extra migrating geese, extra Lemoyne Star, extra Ohio Star, extra of the spiked border, extra of the braid border, so it will accommodate all sizes. And if you're lucky to be small, there's enough to probably make 2 complete jackets. So, here's another one I wanted to show you. This one, I made this for my mom years ago. She virtually wore it out. It's worn. Used grid, 1-inch grid blocks, and lots of them. But and did chenille on the cuffs, but it never really chenilled up much. Anyway, just some ideas. You can change your neckline on the sweatshirts too. But like I say, after we do the modern sampler, this one, and I got the whole thing hanging up so you can see the whole thing. If I can get back far enough. It's 4 blocks by 6 blocks. There's 8 different blocks, 3 of each one. And then there's the border blocks. And I'm going to suggest, if you're going to make this, don't make all your center blocks first and then do your outer blocks. I think there's 64 of those little blocks. And you get real bored, if you're like me, you get real bored doing the same block over and over and over and over again, even though the colors are different. I divided it out, so I would do a few, like maybe 4 blocks, and then do 6 of the outer border blocks, and then 6 blocks and a quarter of the. So by the time I got all 24 blocks done, I had all the little blocks done. So then it wasn't so tedious, and it seemed like it went faster. I don't know. But anyway, so that's when we're going to start on Tuesday. And I did get yours out, Sandy. So what else? Anyway, I'm gonna finish adding the length to that sweatshirt and maybe start playing with some blocks. So there will be in the instructions, what I say for the jacket package, there are cutting instructions for all the different blocks that are in there. There's the basic instructions for how to deconstruct the sweatshirt, how to add the length to the sweatshirt, and what else? I think that's it. And it will, if there's not detailed instructions on how to make each block, there's enough instruction to show you where to set your first piece, because I know that's a big problem for a lot of people. They forget how to get started. So it does show that on every block. And if there's something like the braid border, it will show you how to add the length, because you can't just make three sections of braid border and put them together. You got to do it continuously. So it will show you that. If there's anything that's out of the ordinary, it does explain that. And there will be videos of making all the different blocks. So I think I got you covered. Does anybody have any questions about the sweatshirt jacket? I'll tell you, I think I'm going to start. I got to add the length. And then I am going to start making the cowboy one. So let me add my piece here. Do I need to cut? Yes. Am I going to need more interfacing? Yes. We'll cut another strip of batting. If I could find the end I cut. I think this is it. And it is a little bit like putting a puzzle together, but it's fun. I will be glad when they get these walls done and I can get everything put away. Kind of bad timing for doing this. Okay. And I think I have enough. And I am going to allow a little bit to match the flare on the other side, you know, on the front. Take this over to the ironing board. Our local horse show and rodeos coming up next, the end of June. So I need to get this little horsey jacket done. Okay. I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to leave the extra so I can flare that out. Wait for my iron to come back on. We got too many projects going on around here. They're finishing up my greenhouse today, and I'm so excited. You can also use that knit fusible tape to do this. Just the only one I had in stock here in the shop was black. So I didn't really want to use that. Not that it's going to show, but just never know. And besides, I need it for the I got to make the batting bigger for the stars of the family, which is what I got it for. Let's see. And I know I have a little piece left over here on one of, I think on the front sleeve. Front. Where's my other front? I had a little bit left over. Well, I know. Well, I guess I just have to make a little bit more of my interfacing. What's down here? Aha. Okay, so I'm going to flare it about an inch. Mark that. No, don't want to go a whole inch. I'm going to say a half an inch is a good. good amount. Don't want it to look like a... And then I'll just fold it in half and do the other side the exact same. I guess I better go attach that. I'm not showing you very well if I don't do it right myself, right? Okay. Adhere that. Doesn't want. There's more than... I don't know why it doesn't want to adhere, but we'll get it. Oops. Maybe that's used up. I got a new thing of glue sticks the other day. I don't know where I've been for so long. It works awesome on the hexes that I'm appliquing. I turn the edges under, and instead of having to sit there and baste them, I just use a little glue baste. The 505 that dissipates when you steam it. And oh my gosh, they're all ready to go on the background fabric. I really wanted to get that one done before we had to unload the whole design wall for putting up the new fabric on the design wall. Okay, so what I'm going to do is fold this in half so I get the same angle of flare on both sides of, at the bottom. Match those seams up here at the armhole and the bottom. Oops. There we go. Got those edges even. And I'm just going to trim so it goes out at the same angle. Go over my little wider hips. And then do the same thing, match it with the front sides. And I don't think I finished cutting this one. Okay, and then I'll do the same on the other front. I knew there was one I hadn't finished trimming out. Match that right there, the armpit to the armpit, and the bottom of the original sweatshirt. Right there. And the edges. Beautiful. And we'll do the same, we'll match it. Perfect. Now we're ready to start building it. I'm going to put the back towards me right side up so I can, oh, and that's the other thing I want to do is do my other markings that I told you about. From the armpit to the armpit. Like that. And just do, it just kind of gives you a guide of where your yoke is going to start. I mean, the armpit is a little low, but I think my pieces went up like another inch or two above there. And then I'm going to do the same thing across the top of both sleeves. It's just, and you don't have to do this, but it's kind of nice to have the reference. Plus it helps keep things straight, square, as you're building. The other front. To the base over here. Get that all out of the way. So this is my back, and I'm going to start playing with this. I think this little panel right here should go right about there. And then we can, what are we going to do? We do have the 2.5 inch mini charm pack, but I think that's what I want to save for the yoke. And we'll do a strip of fabric across the top of this that I'll take all the way out. I think I might move this down just a little bit, maybe right even with that line. And then I'll add a strip of fabric across the top here, maybe an inch wide or so. I'll probably cut it 2 inches. Better to have too much than not enough. And I got to figure out what I'm going to do for filler here. And what we're going to do down here, I think maybe a row of log cabin blocks. And for the log cabin blocks, I will use, oh, I have some fabrics I could add to that. For the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 4 rounds. We can use these 4 right here. How's that? That would be perfect. We'll do the log cabin blocks in a symmetrical design. And let me see if I can find my log cabin blocks. These finish at 4.5 inches. So we'll make 4, and then we'll have a little filler fabric on both sides. So if your jacket is bigger, you can either do 5 blocks or you can just do a little bit bigger piece of fill. And I hope I haven't confused you guys too much today. I was thinking that I might have Bob do a video from a tripod where he can follow me, and I would do a real instructional video that you can start and stop. And let me put this over here. And my pieces need to be, I'm going to cut them 1¼ inches wide. So my sweatshirt can just sort of sit aside for now till I get some blocks made to start laying things out. And I think I'm probably going to do, I think I'm going to do the braid border down both sleeves. What do you think? And I think I just need a strip of each of these. Kind of improv quilting. But sometimes this is the most fun and the ones you're most proud of. And we'll do a bandana strip. I was going to do a patriotic jacket. Bring out I have a big drawer of just leftovers or, you know, small pieces of yardage I picked up here and there just because they're patriotic. But that's the one I'm thinking I'm not sure. I was thinking that's the one I'd like to kind of do bomber jacket style. And then I was hoping we were going to be in Washington, D.C. for the 4th of July. Go back to the kids' house, but it's not going to happen. So if we're here at home, what's that old saying? You know, what is it? The hottest or the coldest summer I ever, whatever. Anyway, around here in the summertime, we do get fog a lot. In the summertime, the heat from over in the valley pulls the fog in. So, 4th of July, you never know. I think if I remember right, last summer it was overcast. We couldn't see any fire. We live up on a hill, and usually we can see fireworks all around us. We couldn't see anything. At least I wasn't too worried about fires this year. Oh my gosh. We're already having fires, and the grass isn't even totally brown yet. Okay, let's make some log cabin blocks. And I think we'll start with our centerpiece. Log cabins. If you want to do them to build around, yep, this one works. Okay. So we need to cut our centerpiece is like 1¼ inches by 1¼ I guess I could use the right ruler. 1 1/4. 1 1/4. Start with the wrong side facing up, set this on top, and this one gets a pin in it. And then I think we'll go with this that looks like tooled leather. And I'm not pre-cutting. You don't need to always do that. We'll turn this over, and piece number 2 goes right there, right sides together. And then we'll turn it back over, so foundation is on top, and we're going to stitch right on that line between space 1 and space 2. I don't know how my walking foot is going to work on this. We may have to change it. I like that it's nice open toe, but it might be too much. I had to take my machine apart. Oh my gosh, it was so filthy. I was ashamed. I was glad nobody was here to see it. Embarrassing to let your machine get that bad. And I thought I had just cleaned it not too long ago. So I took it all apart, cleaned it, oiled it. And I'm hoping that my tension is working better. I don't know. Okay, back to making blocks. Put our straight edge on our line. For those of you who are new, this is our leave-in foundations. It's the same process as traditional paper piecing, but you're going to leave this in so you can use a regular stitch length. So if you do make a mistake, you can take your stitching out and keep right on using this. And it's great for the foundations for these jackets because it doesn't add any weight or bulk to your jacket, but it keeps everything nice and straight. And I think my stitch length is a little, there we go. I'm not sure I need to leave this walking foot on here, but it's here for today. And for those of you who are new, you will find that I am really picky about my threads. It's the one thing that really gets to me is not clipping the threads. Okay, number 4. We'll trim down to our 1/4 inch. Oh, well, we're going to be doing a quilt show in Puyallup in November. Maybe you can come and see us. You see, the instructions all have what size to cut these pieces. When I do my jackets, it's all kind of improv. I just pick the fabrics kind of as I go, what I think will look good. So I don't do a lot of pre-sewing preparation. It certainly doesn't hurt if you do. If you want to be a little more organized than I am. This is chaos today. Like I say, they're in the middle of building me new walls and doing some painting. And haven't decided yet on what to do with the floors. I'm thinking just new laminate. And there's plenty of blocks in the package. If you make a block or two and you decide, that's not quite what I wanted, there's quite a few, so you have good choices or lots of options. And if you're working from scraps, not necessarily, for the jacket, but for any of your blocks, if you're doing a scrap quilt, you don't need to pre-cut all your fabrics. You can do exactly what I'm doing here. Remember when we did the segment on organizing your stash, I said that I have drawers by color of strips that are 1 3/4 inches wide. It's a little wide for this particular block. Oh, this is a 6-inch block. I think the block in the jacket package it's the same one we did on the other jacket, and it finishes at 4.5 inches. I thought this was a little big. So the 1 3/4 inch strips work good for this. Okay, 5, 6 is over here, and I'm going to do a different fabric for the next round. And I think I only need 3 rounds. Oh, good. We can get a little variety here. I think I'm going to go with the little boot print for this round. Yeah, I think that'll look good. I need to bring my big scissors over. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much today on how to deconstruct the sweatshirt. The main things are you don't want it to get stretched, and you want to deconstruct it just to the point of having a flat piece. It makes it much easier to just make your fabric. And you know what? My tension is still off. And I'm sure it's the bobbin. But I don't know how to tighten it. I guess I'll have to get the mechanic in here and have him take a look at it. Okay, number 6, number 7 is right here. You just go in numerical order, and you only trim for the next piece. This is a space I'm gonna cover, so and I do have the instructions with the cutting chart. I could cut it like that, but this is just as easy. Wow. And here, little steam. I use a light steam setting. You don't have to. I know a lot of quilters don't like to use steam. I just feel like it gives a flatter seam when I press it. Oops, I guess I better put a piece of fabric on there. These fabrics go with that mini charm pack I have. I guess I'm out of steam. And then we're gonna trim for number 9. The nice thing about doing the log cabin blocks on our foundation is there's no squaring up after every round, but every block all the way through will be consistent. They'll all be straight. You'll end up with a square block. And they will stay that way. If you wanted to fussy cut something and it was on the bias to get it to sit just right, it's okay. It isn't going to stretch. Oh, the stitches are better. But it's up, I had to turn the tension up out of the normal range, so that tells me there's something not quite right with adjustments. Number 10 is next, right here. And I add a quarter ruler is the only thing you need to make any of this stuff. any of our blocks. Okay, we've done those two. Let's, think I'll do the little bandana fabric. I'm going to cut off the selvage here. And for those of you that watched Laura, did you see her finished blended fan, or whatever we call that pattern? Did you see her finish on that? It's beautiful. Okay, number 11 is next. Okay, so now I'm thinking if across the sweatshirt there, the armpit height is, and below is, what was it, about 23 inches? That would mean 4 of these would be 24 inches. That's all I would need for the full width. Yay. Okay, 12. Okay, and you know, the next one is my favorite one. It's the last piece. And we'll trim. This one. Okay, let's press this last piece. And then I am going to run, because it's going to be a while before I get this all put together. So I'm going to run a line of basting stitches in the seam allowance before I trim it. So I've got this whole length where it's not attached. So I want to make sure I keep it smooth, don't get it distorted. So when you go to join this to another block or a piece of sashing or whatever, because this whole expanse is not attached, when you go to join it, it could move on you and it would distort your block. I mean, I never really had it do it too bad to me before, but once I started doing this stitching, and I know it's a little more work, but it's worth it, at least in my opinion. And you don't have to do it. Sounds so different without walking foot on it. You know, I don't change my stitch length, Sandy. I don't plan to rip it out, so I just use the same stitch length that I do in my regular stitching, piecing, whatever. Okay. I'm going to put some water in my iron because this isn't laying as flat as I would like it. I guess you don't need to see the butt end of the iron, huh? Oh my goodness, this morning, living in the country, how much fun. I woke up at about 5:30 this morning smelling a very pungent skunk. And it's the second time in about a week I've had enough. My cats don't smell like skunks, so I don't think it's them that's getting them upset, but I don't know what it is. But it's not pleasant. Okay, now we've got this all covered and it's pressed well. We're going to trim 1/4 inch from the solid line. I think on this one it looks like the dotted line is in, it's not quite out at a full 1/4. And I'll tell you why, because I tried to get as many blocks across the width of the foundation. So I squeezed them together a little bit. And that meant making the dotted line not quite. The only reason the dotted line is there is I want to make sure you get your fabric out that far so that you've got enough to be sufficient in the seam allowance. Okay, there's my first block. Don't see too much of the boots, but it's got a lot of color. And I think it will go well with, with my little panel. Definitely get some country look. Oh, and I just got an idea. I'm going to use that Lemoyne star on the front to make it look like a sheriff jacket. Oh, dear me. Yeah, with the foundations keep everything from stretching, but it doesn't add any weight or bulk. Oh, I think this is going to be cute. And I there's several other small panels here. Just might be able to get. I thought there was a smaller one. Yeah, might be able to get that one in on the front, or this one. I think this is the full set of panels. I'm not sure. I have more yardage here, but I think that's all there was just like 2 rows to a set. Oh, there's a bigger panorama. What one did I put there? Oh, that's the one I put on the back, this one. Yeah, it's just the 2 rows. Oh, that's kind of cool, just the horses. Lots to do from this one. Oh, and there's a couple. Oh, no, there must be 3 rows to it because this one is small enough. It could go, because you could vary the height of them on the front so it doesn't look too cutesy. You could put one up high, one down low on the front. And like I say, I'm going to do the braid down the sleeve as far up as it will go. And then I don't know, what'll we do across the yoke part? Oh, that's right. I had said I was going to do the grid because that'll go over the shoulder and down around to the front. So that'll work. Okay. Well, we're not going to, this isn't going to, we'll do 4 of these and they'll all 4 be a little different. They'll be the same. I have the darker tulle leather also. So we'll use those 4 fabrics for the 4 blocks across here. And I'll figure out what I'm going to put in for filler over here. I kind of like to have the filler always be one consistent fabric. So I'm not sure which that one will be. I don't know how dark I want this. If I want it to be the bandana, I'm going to go look. There might be the red bandana that goes with this. Might have that. We'll look. Anyway, if this comes out cool, I just may go look for some cowboy fabrics and do a kit. We'll see. Anyway, it's time for me to go. I hope you all have a great weekend. Today's Thursday, right? Don't forget to watch Laura tomorrow morning, uh, 10 to noon Eastern time. And I think she's working on a new project. And it is our most popular, all-time popular fabric. And that colorway that she's doing, that has just been consistent for a number of years. Can never go wrong with that one. So be sure you watch her. And I will be back on Saturday. I will be finishing up this one or the other one, the other jacket, and I'll probably go over the deconstructional. I might be cleaned up in here a little bit better to have a little more room to show you. And maybe we will deconstruct one more sweatshirt and get you started. So, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on Saturday. Take care. Bye bye.